Now, the next question that's been sent to me came from one of my students who has currently gone through the 11-hour Kriya Yoga training course, the downloadable Kriya Yoga training course at ashevillevedicastrology.com. And I'll just read what he says here. He says, you talk about your teachings being private and secret as not to share this information unless someone directly asks you about it, or else you're wasting your energy. What you learn or what you teach can sound pretentious. The other side of the coin, you, me, Ryan, mentioned how I stopped talking to friends who have meat parties or not in good company, tell them where I stand and so on. So where is the fine line? He says, I have made major changes in my life this past year. I've been very limited in telling anyone about my spiritual changes or what I'm doing differently. And he gives examples of not drinking anymore, not eating meat anymore, and so on. But he puts himself in situations where people want to know why he's not eating or why he's not eating meat or why he's not drinking, what to do there. Well, this is a good question because I think it's a very common question. And we have a habit and a tendency to want to share our views with people because deep down inside, we want to be accepted for who we are. And part of the spiritual path has nothing to do with being accepted by anyone else. It has to do with getting to know and be what you truly are at the core, the essence of your being, beyond personality, choices, preferences, and so on. And, you know, if your friends are good friends and you don't want to drink a beer or you don't want to have a drink with them, why would they even question you about that? I mean, the reason they want to do it is because they're used to you acting a certain way, and they, in a sense, also define who they are through your activities. So they're just being uncomfortable because now they have to think about, even just subconsciously, why they do what they do. But what I have found is that good friends don't give a damn what you do, as long as you're not hurting yourself. But they don't give a damn what you do. When I was first getting involved in meditation and Kriya Yoga and so on, I know I've told this story in numerous courses, but I gave up meat. I gave up alcohol. I became vegetarian, obviously. I started exercising more. I stopped staying up late. I started getting up early. I radically changed everything I was doing. And it was very difficult for many of my friends. But I just told them, look, this is what I'm doing. And many of them could not handle it. And we just quit hanging out because, you know, they just wanted to leave it alone. And that was that. But as the years went by and I started to realize what real friends were, I met people who I could make any change in the world that I wanted. And they was like, okay, that's fine. You know, if I decide to go on some crazy fad diet of not eating gluten and living off cod liver oil, they'd say, okay, so I guess we're not inviting you over for pizza tonight. But we would do other things later on. So the difficulty is recognizing who are your real friends, and to know that the people in your life that are very supportive and helpful for you, they don't really care what you do. If you say you got to go to bed because you're going to get up at 5 a.m. and meditate, they'll say, great, all right, I'll see you tomorrow around 4 instead. If they make a big deal of the fact that you're not drinking anymore, and all you have to say is, I don't want to. And if they push it, if they can't leave it be, if they give you a hard time about it, what does that say about them? If you decide you don't want to eat meat for spiritual reasons, you don't have to go and talk about that. It is none of their business. You just simply say, I just don't want to do it anymore. You know, maybe do some research on what eating red meat, how that affects your diet, and then leave it at that. And again, if they keep pushing it, just ask yourself, why would you put up with that? So the idea is certainly that you want to respect people, but you don't have to defend yourself all the time. And remember, the whole point of this process of awakening and clarity is so that you don't have to defend yourself, because you're learning to let go of this little identification of a personality, of the sense of self, of, you know, I like this, I don't like that. And if you're around people who make you defend yourself all the time, or you feel you have to defend yourself all the time, you are just continuing to promote that sense of separation, that sense of, I am a person with preferences, and while my preferences were once eating meat and drinking beer, now they are being a vegetarian and only drinking room temperature water. All you did was switch out one preference for another, but you're still defining yourself as something. So overall, you got to not worry about it. You don't want to dramatize your choices, because they're not everyone's choices, and that wastes your energy. It takes away from your own particular path. So the main points to take home is you should not have to defend yourself to your friends or to your family. If you're not able to say, I've just decided to try something different, and leave it like that. I feel better when I don't drink, or I read on the health benefits of vegetarianism and it's made a big difference in my life. Just leave it at that. The questioner goes on to say, I mean, I can't hide my changes from everyone. I know, and people may be accepting, but it's going to lead down a rabbit hole every time. Well, no, it doesn't have to lead down a rabbit hole every time. You don't need to explain your choices to anyone. You just don't eat meat. You just don't order a drink. If someone asks why, you just say you don't do it. If I go to a restaurant and they're asking me if I want French fries or coleslaw, and I pick coleslaw, no one's going to say, well, why aren't you getting the fries? I mean, just think about how silly it is. So you just change the subject and you move on. Eventually they'll get the point. And if they don't, you need to find someone else to hang out with who doesn't really care. When it comes to being around people that might tell crude jokes or offend you in a certain way, well, again, go find someone else. There's meetup.com. Find a group that supports interests that you have, and go meet new people. Shake it up a little bit. That way you can stay specific on your spiritual path. You can do your work privately between you, God, divine consciousness. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You just be what is appropriate for you, and you let it be at that. So when you're on the spiritual path, it's a quiet path. You don't have to defend yourself to anyone. Stay true to who you are. And if people can't accept that, well, then just move on. It's okay to move on. It's okay to change, because as we go through life, as we learn and we grow, we're going to resonate and attract different people. Just like you might meet one spiritual teacher that works for you for a year and a half. But then eventually, as your consciousness changes and grows, you might be attracted to something that you might be better served by. When I was in high school and a young kid, I was a Catholic. After that, I got interested in more natural religions related to Celtic themes and so on. After that, I became interested in meditation. After that, I became interested more specifically in vichara. So there can be a growth process that you go through, and throughout all of that, you shed your skin and you move into a new stage. So you just got to be comfortable moving into a new stage and not having to defend yourself.